Alright guys, welcome back to another video. This is going to be covering how I was able to make over $700 before the market even opened using a setup called the T.G.I.F setup. This is actually an ICT concept. It requires two different things. Number one, you need to see a strong weekly candle. Obviously, we're on the weekly chart. You can see we have a huge green candle that actually closed the week almost at the high of the candle. And number two, you need to see that weekly candle trade into a high time frame PD rate. In this case, you can see this weekly fair value gap that we traded into on Friday. Essentially, what I was looking for on Friday, guys, was a potential trade either on Friday or on the Sunday or Monday going into the next week's session. So in this case, because we closed the weekly candle all the way up at the highs, there was obviously no setup. So immediately what I did was I drew the 20 to 30% Fibonacci retracement on this candle, expecting it to hit on the Sunday open of next week or on the Monday. If you're confused on what this means, guys, just use your Fibonacci tool. You can see it on the left-hand side on TradingView here. And these are the settings that I personally use. You want the 0.2, the 0.25, and the 0.3 Fibonacci. I also keep the 0.5 there just for reference. And sometimes if the T.G.I.F setup is super strong, we will actually end up going back down and closing towards that 50% level. But at minimum, I was looking for the 0.2, 0.25, and 0.3. So obviously this was Friday. Now let's go ahead and skip over to the 1 minute chart and see how the market opened on the Sunday afterwards. All right, so this was how the market looked on Sunday open. This was the close on Friday. And obviously in the after hours session, we had the Moody's downgrade, which caused the sell-off at the end of the day on Friday. Now on Sunday here, you guys can see we actually gapped down pretty strongly. We touched into that 0.2. Obviously, you can see the 0.2, 0.25, and 0.3. We touched into the 0.2, which technically is the first target on this trade. However, this is not an entry for me. Just having a random gap down on a Sunday is not just enough for me to blindly short the market. What I wanted to see was this 1 minute gap that we created on the Sunday open to get filled and potentially see a setup after that. So if we move the market forward, you guys can see that we slowly consolidate after that big gap down. And then ultimately we do end up getting a drive higher above this gap. And then there is a 1 minute inversion I'll show you in a second, which I did not take, and I'll explain to you why that is. All right, so right here, we can see that we filled this 1 minute gap from the gap down on Sunday. I did not take this 1 minute inversion short because I believe that we were likely to hit this internal high before getting the sell-off. So I was waiting for a sweep of this, but I did tell myself that if we did close below all of these bullish candles, that we would look for another trade later on down here. So we can see here that we never ended up sweeping that internal high. And so immediately now that we broke structure through all these candles, I was looking for a setup to target this somewhere in this general area. So let's move the market forward and see what we get. We got very close to it. I was feeling a little bit of FOMO here, obviously, because I thought I had missed the move. But then we generated this buy side liquidity up here, and I was looking for a sweep of it to take some kind of an inverse trade short. And right here, guys, was my specific entry. So you can see that we swept buy side liquidity right here. And we were able to close back below this bullish 1 minute fair value gap, creating an inversion. So my entry was here on this 1 minute candle when we closed below the inversion. My stop loss was going to be a close back above this internal high. And my take profit was going to be all the way down at that sell side liquidity, giving me a 2-for-1 setup. And if we move the market forward, you can see slowly but surely, with a little bit of drawdown, but not too much, we were finally able to go down and sweep that 0.25 of the Fibonacci retracement, completing a portion of that T.G.I.F setup. So I hope you guys were able to learn something from this video. Later on, we actually did end up retracing back below this 30%, but it did take a little bit more of a drawdown, and it was a longer wait time for that trade to actually play out. But anyways, guys, I hope you learned something from that video. If you guys have any questions, as always, DM me. I live stream almost every single day on YouTube or in my community. There should be a link in the description or in the comments below.